This is the time of the year I love because I just came in from the garden. You get those nippy mornings. That's why I have the hoodie on. And again, mosquitoes, right? Cool nights, cool mornings mean the tomatoes just start ripening, sweetening those sugars. So I'm really pumped. And today I'm going to do one of my favorite things. There's certain things that I celebrate every year, no questions asked, with certain kinds of tomatoes. Let's take a look at a few of the heirlooms I've been growing and saving seeds from for decades. Some of my heirloom varieties that I just love, of course, the San Marzano Romas. Now I know it's not San Marzano if it's not grown in that specific region in Italy, but this is the tomato. I have the seeds, I save them every year. And what you do is you save seed from some of your best looking specimens towards the end of the season. And that way you get healthy plants year after year. And actually I just put 3 of each of some of these on here. I have enough of these harvested right now. Tomorrow's Sunday to make a beautiful pot of marinara. Sun Gold, or as one of my neighbors labeled these, sugar bombs. One of the sweetest, most beautiful cherry tomatoes on the planet. And then, of course, we did Brandywine a couple of episodes ago. This one fell to the ground, but it's in decent shape. Maybe I'll do fried green tomatoes. Sometimes they will ripen if you leave them on the windowsill, but this one fell early, and it's been sitting in here for a couple of weeks, so I don't think it's going to ripen, at least not quickly. And then a couple of surprises. There's always volunteer, etc. I don't recall planting these at all. It's a yellow cherry tomato. And usually yellow means lower in acid and sweeter. These are fantastic, and I've been making nice little salads with these and the Sun Gold. Makes a great visual, especially with the green. I just cut them in half. With the green of the basil, sometimes either a little red onion or the white mozzarella. And this is another one that's kind of, I don't remember. I used to grow one called Borghese, and I saved the seeds. This might be that. I'm not sure. So these have no names. But there you go. Nice little surprises. Here's another one. Not sure. Is that a dwarf Brandywine? No, because Brandywine has the little almost green stripes in it. Haven't tasted that yet. I'll find out. However, all these tomatoes have their great uses, but we're not using them today. Today, one of the things I wait for every year that must be done is the tomato sandwich. And this is Goldie. This is another beauty. Take a look at her. Yellow. This tomato is perfectly ripe. Okay? It's got a little green tinge. Some of them will go full yellow. And I think I mentioned this in another episode. You see, not quite stem rot, but you see it cracking. The water patterns, the rain patterns this year have just been a nightmare for the ripening of the tomatoes. Plants got off to a great start. Too much water later on. They want a wet spring and a drier summer. However, plenty of yield, plenty of tomatoes, but you do lose some to rot. So this, my friends, tomato sandwich. The simplest, one of the most delicious, satisfying things in my life. First things first, you need a great sandwich bread. I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, my go-to is King Arthur's Classic Sandwich Bread. So let's start with that. Head over to the marble with me. Come on, let's do it. Come on, let's do it. King Arthur Classic Sandwich Bread. Let's do this. Now I'm going to put a link in the description box for this recipe right to the King Arthur site. Anytime I want sandwiches, I go to this. And another beauty of it is it's ready in like 3 hours, less than 3 hours. 360 grams of flour, and of course, this is my standard. It's always in my house. I don't even get all-purpose anymore. If I need all-purpose flour for other recipes, that's just fine. 360 grams, and do yourself a favor. If you're making bread or baking, get yourself a scale, all right? And weigh out in, I prefer grams. Don't be a stubborn American and refuse to work in the metric system. I mean, get fluent in both. At work, I'm a graphic artist. I work in inches. But baking, 2 tablespoons sugar, just everything in the bowl. Half a cup of milk. Again, recipe in the description. Oh, I actually did forget something. I should have bloomed this yeast, so let's do that real quick. 1 packet of yeast. You can use instant yeast, quick rise, rapid rise. But let's steal a little bit of our warm water here, which is going to go in, and just bloom this yeast. And what I like to do is add just a couple of grains of sugar. Give this yeast something tasty to feed on. All right, we'll get that going. That should only take 3 minutes or so. Okay, let's continue on. Melted butter, 4 tablespoons, which is a half a stick. I use unsalted butter. And salt, 1 1/4 teaspoon. The recipe will also give you gram measurements on these, 8 grams of salt, etc. And sometimes I do that. But as critical as everyone says baking, on the dry ingredients, with the exception, I think, of the flour, which should always be weighed. But teaspoon measures, etc. are fine for your salt, your sugar. So you can see the yeast is already beginning to bubble. Let's give it another second. Yeah, getting nice and active. Warm water. So 1/2 to 2/3 cups. And let's take a measurement on our water here. It should be approximately 110. Bingo, 114. Nicely done. Because even transferring it to this will cool it down a couple of degrees from one vessel to the other. So I'm going to go to 2/3, but I'm going to add a half to start. So I'm going to add not quite all of this and save some until we see everything affects your dough, right? The humidity in the room. All right, yeast is looking good, nice and active. So let me get my spatula here so I can get all of this out. There you go. Flour, a little milk, butter, sugar, salt, and the yeast. Let's get that all in there. Now I'll give it a little pre-start. Basically, I'm just going to mix it in the mixer. So let's get that on with the hook. And start mixing nice and low. And I'll let that go about 5-7 minutes till it's formed into a nice smooth dough, and then we'll transfer it into our proofing container. See you back here in a few. Okay, it's been about 6 or 7 minutes. We turned our dough into a nice smooth dough ball. So let's transfer it now. I said proofing before. This is not really proofing. This is the first rise. So let's transfer it. I've got this lightly coated with extra virgin olive oil. Just going to punch this down a little because, as you can see, this bucket has measurement lines. We want this not quite to double. This is going to be about between an hour and 2 hours. But sometimes I just leave it in here. Sometimes I just let it rise in here. But I like this because you can really get a better visual on how much it rises. Okay? So this will be between an hour and 2 hours. And then we'll have a look. So off I go. Get a few other things done. And let's have a look at this once it's risen. Okay, it's been a couple of hours. I didn't set a timer or pay too close attention to the clock or anything, but I am paying attention to this dough. So let's have a look. Just about doubled, maybe a little less than double. Looks beautiful, man. A lot of air in there. Look at that. So I've got my sandwich bread little mold here. This little glass Pyrex, which I love. I got this from my grandmother years ago. I'm a little bummed because it had a nice top that I broke. But I still use it for sandwich bread. It was nice for like little casseroles. It had this top with a handle. But c'est la vie, stuff happens. So let me get this phone in the tripod, and then I'll get the dough out and we'll get it in that mold. Here we go. I'll get a little bit of flour out on the marble, not too much because my dough is perfect, just enough to work it. I don't want to add flour to the dough at this point. And look, it comes out perfectly clean. Well risen, smells unbelievable. Smells like bread already. Now what I like to do with this sandwich bread is just do a couple of folds. It's more like a log. So I'll fold it in on itself and then shape it to fit my Pyrex here. So give it like a little log action, tucking it under at the bottom. Give it a little stretch. Okay, that looks pretty good. It's going to rise again. So let's put it in our sandwich bread mold. Sort of push it out to the edges a little. And now we're going to go for the final rise. So I'm just going to cover this and leave it right here. And we'll see you in a little bit. You'll see what it does. Back up on that a minute. I just remembered for this recipe, this bread will likely rise above the top of this. So let's go with a little plastic wrap instead. And what I'm going to do is this. Take a little piece that'll cover this. Let me stretch it out on here. And then what I'm going to do is get my extra virgin oil. Just put a few drops on there and just lightly brush it on here. And then I'm going to flip this over. So if it does rise up and push the plastic, it won't have a tendency to stick as much. So over we go. Just very loose and lightly cover this. You want to give the bread a chance to push up when it rises. Okay, this is going to be about another hour or so. So what did I say? A 3-hour bread. Maybe 4. Okay, let's let that just chill on the counter, and we'll see you in about an hour. All right, it's been about an hour, give or take. Getting a nice rise going. It's not up over the top yet, but that's okay. There'll be a little oven spring rise too, so I think let's let it keep going while we get the oven cranked up to 350. And I'm just going to bake. No convection needed here. It's a simple loaf of bread. So let's let that preheat and let our bread continue to rise. As soon as that's preheated, we'll pop her in. All right, 350, just got the beep. So we are good and perfect timing. Look at that, we got the rise. So let's peel this off and pop her in. Here we go. 350. Now, I've been sort of eyeballing things now. Now it's in. I do want to use the timer. So let's go 30 minutes and we'll have a look. How's that? All right, see you in a half. Okay, timer went off. I got the buzz. I had set it for 30 minutes, but bummer of bummer, I can't locate my pulp thermometer. So I left it in an extra 5. King Arthur says 30 to 35 minutes. I usually do like to test it. You want an internal of about 190. But I've done enough of these. I can see by the color she's good. So let's get her up here. And now we're just going to let it cool and rest. I usually give it just a few minutes in the glass, and then I tip it out and put it on this rack and just let it cool down. Looks like a beauty. Okay, the sound will tell you too. Nice crust. So let's let that cool, and then it's tomato sandwich time. Okay, I am ready for Saturday night supper. I had a little breakfast this morning, but no lunch. It's 6 p.m. Let's slice up this sandwich bread and see how she looks. That is a beauty, and this is why I stick with that recipe. It's the go-to. What I'll do, this is a whole loaf of bread just for me, but what I'll do is I make my slices and then I freeze them. All right. This is another sandwich I am not going to toast. Straight up King Arthur white sandwich bread. All right, this show's already getting a little long. That's why I don't do a lot of bread baking shows. They take a while. So in the interim, while we were off camera, the different bread risings and whatnot, I did go ahead and make some mayonnaise. Now, I have a little bit of Hellmann's in the fridge, the old classic, but this is where I get a little crazy. The bread's homemade, right? We just made it. The tomatoes just picked this morning. So why use store-bought mayonnaise when this is just as good, actually better? And the reason I like homemade mayonnaise, A, is from the girls' eggs, but B, you can control what your oil is. All right, this is, I've been using mostly light olive oil, but I only had about a third of a cup, and I use a cup. So I did fill it out with extra virgin. I usually don't care for an extra virgin olive oil mayo. It can be a little bit on the tough side, flavor-wise, but this is delicious. The little blend with the light olive oil. Salt and pepper, all right? That's where you put a little pepper on there. We'll salt the actual tomato. So here we go. This is why we're here. Goldie. Let's see what she looks like. I'm going to go down a good clip, about a third, because we do have that little bit of stem rot up there. And again, that is not going to go to waste. That's going to the girls. I'll chop it up. They love tomatoes. So let's set that aside. And this is our sandwich side. We'll do a few thin slices and pile them up. Now what I'm going to do is salt each one as I go. Because even in a few seconds before I eat this, we still have to set up our plate. It's going to start its capillary action, pulling those juices out of this tomato. Goldie. And actually another quality control thing I love to do is take a little nip, no salt, and just check the flavor. Oh man. Oh. I cut that bread a little thicker than I normally would have, so I'm gonna, this is dinner by the way. So let me go with a whole nother slice, thin slice. So we got a nice stack here. Let's close her up. Give her a slice. And let's plate this beauty up. Nice blue plate to complement the orange tomato. Goldie. You know you gotta have chips with this. How about a little mac salad? This is dinner, baby. And to finish her off, I've got my nice big jug of sour dills. So let's get one of those out. This has been the absolute best cucumber year, I think, since I've been growing. These sour dills are the bomb. So let me slice that and get myself a little spear. Saturday night supper, tomato sandwich. I'm going in. Damn, that's good. These things, you guys. Sour ferment. No vinegar. I've got those in the fridge too. Just salt and water, fermented. Whole pickles. Just take an eighth off each end. Oh my God. So crunchy. So sour. This dinner is great. Just goes to show you don't need some fancy supper. This is the simplest sandwich I think there might be. Two slices of bread, tomato, mayonnaise, salt, and pepper. It's so good. It's all about the ripe tomatoes. Fresh pulled, ripe on the vine. You cannot beat it. And with these accompaniments, I'm just enjoying. We'll see you for the next episode. Come on.